Hi, and welcome to the Passionistas Project podcast. We're Amy and Nancy Harrington, and if you enjoy listening to the show, please consider becoming a patron. Just a small donation of $1 a month can help us keep the project going, and you'll get rewards like buttons, access to premium content, and invites to Passionistas Project events. Today we're talking to Erin Penner, the founder of an outdoor, exploration-based school, ILA, which stands for Inspired Little Activists. Erin is also an elected official on the Hollywood United Neighborhood Council, and she's an advocate for the LGBT community and the unhoused population in Los Angeles. So please welcome to the show, Erin Penner. What are you most passionate about?
I'm most passionate about giving a voice to people that aren't being heard and giving them a platform to really say what they need and speak what's on their mind. And whether it's working with the homeless or with children, it's just giving them a voice.
So how does that translate into what you do for a living?
I started my own nonprofit organization that teaches kids how to take ownership of LA. So they clean Griffith Park and they clean the beach and they feed the homeless, and they're on the metro twice a month and they go all over the city, and they really are advocates for the city and for people in need and for themselves. So it gives them quite a voice.
Talk a little bit about your path to starting the preschool.
When I came here 12 years ago, I had my teaching degree from Wheelock College in Boston. And back then, I mean, you could work in TV without even thinking about it. The jobs were like a dime a dozen. So I jumped into TV, but also nannied because my passion is working with kids. So I was nannying for quite some time, and one of the children's preschool teachers grabbed me, and she had her own school out here in LA that she had started. And I was working one-on-one with her for years, and she branched out, and the school moved to Griffith Park and became entirely outside. But she had a child 2 years ago, and I kind of took it over, rebranded it, and added my own little flair to it, and that's where I am now.
And what's the flair that you added?
I made it very much an activism school, and it's actually called Inspired Little Activists. And what she was doing was very nature-driven, and this still is, but nature's not necessarily my passion. I enjoy being outside very much, but I'm not really a put your hiking boots on every single day kind of person, even though we do that. But I added my own, let's grab your backpack, get on the metro, and go meet Mayor Garcetti and stuff like that. So it's kind of both.
So give us examples of some other kinds of things you do.
We constantly learn about leaders, world leaders, leaders in the community, whether it's just someone in town or Billie Jean King or stuff like that. But we also it's really important to me that they know their community and even teach their own parents about their community. So the fire department will stop by, or police will stop by. My friend's a nurse and he'll stop by. And it's just very much just being a part of the world they live in. So we do that. They constantly have visitors. And then like this week, it's Day of the Dead. So we're going to an art gallery downtown. Self-help graphics, it's called. They'll learn Native American art and Mexican art and stuff like that. So it's really like any holiday, like LGBT Rights is all this month. So they learn about that and just kind of really weave in everything that's going on, and not be so depressing about what's happening in the country, but really not lying to them about anything and making them aware and just being positive of how to change that.
Do you feel like kids that age are underestimated in what they're capable of grasping?
100%. And I talk about it all the time. I talk about it like specifically with like LGBT rights and stuff. We underestimate how much they can handle and how much they want to learn. And we kind of put a stigma on stuff. So it's like, some people whisper when they even say the word gay. And it's like, no, some of them have two moms and two dads. And why is that something that we even whisper? So we talk about that stuff, and then they learn about Harvey Milk, and they know that love is love and it doesn't matter. And they teach their family about it. And the family's like, oh my God, I would have been so scared to even touch this topic, which is crazy. So we definitely underestimate what kids can handle.
So what do the parents know going into it when they sign their kids up? What do they expect?
It's not hard when you first meet me to know that I'm not someone that will kind of tiptoe around things, but that's what people like. Actually, when I was nannying, one of the dads called me Nanny Leather Pants because it's kind of like I will. I have a rule in school that we do happy hour once a month with all the parents. So it has to be a tight-knit community, but they'll also know my sailor mouth and what I'm passionate about outside of school, and it's really important. So when I interview families for school, I mean, that's out in the open right away. And, I mean, eventually I'll be covered in tattoos and I won't even have to tell them because they'll know when they look at me that that's just how it goes.
What do you think the kids get from learning outside of a classroom? Why is it so important to be in the world?
One thing that people are always shocked by, especially when we go on our field trips, is not only are they capable of taking on the world themselves. I mean, they're on the metro at 3 years old, just carrying all their stuff, and they know the map and they know which line we go on and everything. And what it teaches people just by watching them is, how capable they are. So being outside of just four walls, I mean, you're teaching them how to, I mean, even if there was an emergency, they know exactly who to go to, what to do. One thing we do is they're exposed to like the homeless. And that's a tricky part because you don't want them to think, okay, I can just talk to any stranger, which I have to talk to the parents about a lot, but they're human. And so just being outside the classroom, they learn so much in that regard. And they know the names of, like, they know Paul is one guy that sits at the park near us, and we ask how his day is going. And I think all of it teaches the adults just as much as it teaches the kids. So it's just nothing you would get inside of a classroom.
How do they go to traditional schools after being with you?
It's kind of a worry I have, and it did come up this year. One of my girls who, I mean, I always say that they are my best friends and they're 5, and it was hard. She had to adjust. It was like 2 months of adjusting where she was just like, this is not where I want to be. So I would actually have a date with her every week to take her out, and we go to the deli and eat prosciutto after school and stuff, because it was impossible for her to be with 30 kids rather than 7 and to be in this crowded classroom with a teacher that is just strictly a teacher and that's it. Because they're family, and they have a bad day, they FaceTime me and we go out all the time, and it is tricky. I worry about the adjustment, but so far it's been pretty good.
So you talked a little bit about your work with the homeless, but tell us about that, why that's important to you, and what you do for outreach.
I grew up in my family's Italian restaurant on Cape Cod, and I was always the little kid that was just addicted to talking to people, and especially if like you're sitting at a table alone, I would just pull up a chair and hang out or what have you. But for some reason, like, my mission as a little kid was to make someone's day. And my dad always talks about it too. It's like, if I could make a note and just leave it with like a cookie, or like when it was his birthday one year, I just assembled a grill and had it in the front yard, and he rolled up in his pickup truck and there was this grill, and he was just so excited and crying. And it was just like, instantly I realized just making someone's day is the best thing ever. So when I turned 16 or 17, I got my license and I got a red Mustang, and I realized I could go to the homeless shelter. And on Cape Cod, there's one homeless shelter. You don't even know it exists. And that was when, you had the yellow pages, and I was digging, and I was like, I know there's some place around here. And I finally figured it out. It was only 2 towns away. And I called them and I said, can I bring you food? And they're like, yeah, no one's really ever asked that before. So I went to the store and I made them 2 lasagnas. So here comes like this chick in a red car that pulls up 17, and this line of people just staring at me. And I carried in 2 lasagnas and was like, this is the best thing ever. I can help these people. So from there I went to college in Boston, and you could do an internship, and I just wanted to be at a homeless shelter. So I worked at Rosie's Place, which was for women dealing with domestic abuse and stuff. And I ended up writing basically a thesis about this woman there, and my passion for the homeless just really grew, and giving a voice to them at that point. Because there was one day where we had to serve lunch, and it was Valentine's Day, and I brought them a bunch of candies and stuff, and they even took the plastic bag that the candies were in. I was like, gosh, why are they even taking a plastic bag? And it was just, they needed anything. And we had a soda fountain, And I would watch the women and they would take a few sips of soda and just dump it. And I was like, God, how dare they? Like, they're in such need. We have so many people that are in such need. And the guy in charge that I would like listen to Van Halen with during lunch, he was like, don't you see how spoiling yourself is something that we take for granted? And this is the 1 minute that they get to spoil themselves and be wasteful like we are every day. And it's like, wow, that's crazy. And that has stuck with me forever. So once I left Boston and came here, I didn't have a job for a while, and all I did was volunteer in the homeless shelters. And from there, I just started a nonprofit.
So what does your nonprofit do?
It's called Vibes 365. I started it with my partner, Robin, who is now my teaching partner with Isla. And it was to do this with kids. So essentially, we started with summer camps and workshops, and they went really well. But summer camp's a lot of work, and it's a lot of carrying your whole life and all of this that you're teaching to the beach to do a beach cleanup and stuff. And it's great, and I love it. But I ended up scaling it down a tiny bit. So, for instance, right now I volunteer at this center in Hollywood, and it's basically an art class that we do. It's a Women's Day. So I was teaching art for the past 2 years to homeless women. And so my kids, I was approved by the board at the center, they're pen pals with the women. So it's kind of like my nonprofit is me teaching the homeless women art, but it's also my school kids being pen pals. And I mean, they make each other jewelry and make cards, and it's all I do is kind of intertwine everything.
Talk about that pen pal program and how that works and what people who participate get out of it.
It's funny because so many things I have a preconceived notion of what people will get out of it, but it ends up being the opposite of what I think. So the whole time I'm thinking, wow, it'll be amazing for these kids to be in touch with these women and kind of find out what their day is like. But what I learned on the first day is these women would just start crying when they got a letter, because it's like, when was the last time they got a card? And they could be estranged from their kids that they miss so badly. And it's like, no one's ever asked them how they're doing and drawn them a picture. So it was so sweet and innocent, because these women would be like, I have a dog, and what's your dog's name? Or just something so simple like that. And it sounds so elementary, but it was such a game changer. It was just like, someone is reaching out to me, whether I even know what they look like or not, but it made them human again.
How can other people do what you do?
I think people underestimate, when it comes to kids, what kids are noticing that you do. And say you're driving in your car and your kid's in your back seat, and you just kind of drive by some guy at Hollywood and Highland that desperately needs food or something, and you don't even give them the time of day. Just by showing them hello and let's even find out what their name is, it really sticks in kids' heads. But one thing I've learned, I actually had a homeless couple that are very close friends of mine live with me here for a month, because we met on Hollywood Boulevard 3 years ago. I was on a date and walking back, and this couple was on the sidewalk in sleeping bags. And I stopped and talked to them and gave them cookies that I had in my hand, and asked them if they would contact me, because I really wanted to help them. And I begged them, can you get to the library, get on a computer? Because people forget, even just they might not have a phone, they might not have computer access and what have you. And they did a few days later. And he put in his email, Cookie Man. And I had figured it was because I had given him cookies. But what it was is it was a couple that had their own cookie business that tanked. And so my girlfriend was like, I know you hate GoFundMe, because it's kind of like my last resort. I don't like overusing crowdfunding and stuff like that. She was like, you need to just do it. And it was Thanksgiving week. This is 3 years ago, actually, next month. And we raised $2,000 in 24 hours. So I find out that they lived outside of MacArthur Park. So for a week, I was going to have dinner with them in the park, and they would joke and say, come into our living room. And it was just a box on the ground. And it hit me one night. I came home, and I'll never forget, I was sitting in bed, and I was like, how dare I? Because now these are my good friends. And I'm sitting in my bed knowing that they're sleeping on a box in MacArthur Park. So I grabbed them the next day and put them in my car, and they lived here. And what their story, they were fine with me making it public. Even within that week or two, had taught so many people how to really treat people nicely and with an open heart and kindness, that everyone was paying attention to our updates every day. So we got an iPad donated, we got their website back up and running. And then by Christmas time, all my family on the East Coast and all my friends were ordering. This had turned into the cookie factory. And I even have a cookie box that they designed with my logo, my face on it and stuff. But I mean, they had like 20 different flavors and the orders were just coming in. It was crazy. TV production companies my friends worked for had ordered all these cookies. So it was just like reviving them and giving them a voice and giving them a face, and they became family instantly. So it's like we spend all our holidays together and my family sends them Christmas presents, and it just that taught people so much. And right now they're going through a lot, and the wife this week realized she has colon cancer, but all of my friends are friends with them on social media and they instantly have their back and they're like, oh my gosh, what can we do? And it's created a family just from that.
We're Amy and Nancy Harrington, and you're listening to the Passionistas Project podcast and our interview with Erin Penner. To find out more about Isla, visit islaadventureschool.org. Now here's more of our conversation with Erin.
So tell us about the award that you got from the center.
The center's an amazing place, and it's basically, it's not a homeless shelter, it's just a resource center basically for unhoused, we like to say not homeless, unhoused friends of ours. And they surprised me with an award for volunteering there. I had this idea that I wanted to make the Women's Day and give them a makeover. So Robin, being a hairstylist, she was like, let's get this shit done, and we are just changing their lives. So we had 3 or 4 hairstylists, 4 wardrobe people, and some of them like professional wardrobe people. I hired a photographer to do their portraits. We had food, and it was hair, makeup, food. Yeah, and just a ton of clothes. We had hundreds of pounds of clothes donated. So the center let me use them as this just hub for all of this. So this one day, we set up the whole downstairs as a clothing store and really doted on the women, and it was just like coffee and breakfast and all this stuff. And then upstairs, Robin had turned it into a buzzing hair salon, and they got toiletry bags and jewelry. I had sunglasses donated and stuff like that, and then their portrait done so they could see how beautiful they were. And we had 30 or 40 women that first one, and we did our second one this year, and I'd like to do them way more often. Eventually have my own office and hub to do this, but that's where I started at the center, and then we just made it this constant thing for the women. I never realized how underserved the women are in the community and the stuff they go through and the danger they're in every night in a sleeping bag or a tent. It's just, they have changed my life forever, for sure.
What do you think that people should know about those women? Because a lot of people don't take the time to stop.
Well, what we do at the center at all of the outreach days, Friday is Women's Day, and we get them in there for breakfast and to do, like, I do arts and crafts with them and stuff, but really it's kind of a way just to get them in and hear how their week was. And you can let it kind of depress you or just let it motivate you to, like, oh my God, I gotta fix this. And thank God being on the neighborhood council, it kind of helped me realize that's how to give them a voice and go to City Hall and be like, do you know what these women have gone through this week? And I think what people don't realize is just, it's going to sound crazy, but even just going to the bathroom when you wake up in the morning. And I had one friend, Sarah, we had the same birthday actually, and she's been going there for a while. And she's so sweet. And the pen pal with the kids like really affected her because she raised her sister from 7 years old. Sarah was 7 and took care of her sister, and she's had a crazy struggle. So there was one day where she woke up and she had to pee like we all do when we wake up, and she went to a restaurant and they instantly kicked her out. And she had gone into so many places and they had kicked her out, and coffee shops kicked her out. And it's not like she's covered in dirt or anything like that, which everyone thinks if you're homeless you're like covered in mud or something. But no one would let her go to the bathroom, and she peed her pants in the entryway of this restaurant. And she was there telling us this, and it was humiliating for her. But it was like, wow, this is such an insane struggle that I would never think about. And if you were to pee outside, then you're a sex offender, because if you're even near a school or a park or whatever, and a lot of them are in parks, then they have to deal with that. So I think between the safety factor and sexual assault that they deal with a lot on the streets, just even going to the bathroom is a crazy struggle.
You also are a member of the Hollywood United Neighborhood Council, so talk about what other work you do with them.
So actually, Charles and Bridget that lived here helped me get elected, and they were throwing out flyers everywhere that day, and it was pretty amazing. So I've been on there for 2 years, and at the time I was the youngest person on the council, and now I'm the only female as part of the executive officer, so I'm the secretary now. But it's been a very funny situation, because you realize some males just typically don't like females that are kind of getting shit done and doing stuff around the city. And it's insane when I think about women in politics and what they're dealing with, because I'm on such a little peon level, but it's really affected me with crazy messages I get from people that are just like, you know, we're all going to have all the homeless pitch tents outside your apartment building because clearly you're not doing enough, and stuff like crazy things. But you can't let it get you discouraged. So I'm on 4 committees now. So I'm the outreach committee and public safety and homelessness and social services and renters and nonprofit and education. I'm 5. I just resigned from renters last week, but it's taught me a lot. It's taught me talk about giving a voice. It's like you have people in the Hollywood Hills who think they're what I view as something so small that's their big problem, and that's a problem that has to be addressed right away. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Do you know what's happening down here? But you have to come together, and my job is to not just speak about what's concerning me. I have to be a voice for all the neighbors, even if it's something that pisses me off, because if that's what's bothering them, then that's my job. So it's taught me a lot to just let people criticize you and to kind of be an advocate for something you don't necessarily want to be, but that's what you're elected for.
You're also an advocate for LGBT rights, so talk about your work in that area.
Robin McWilliams and Madonna Cacciatore, the best Italian name ever, have made the biggest impact in my life in the past couple of years. And Robin makes a point to just drag me along to all of the LGBT events. And in the beginning, I was like, oh God, they're going to look at me like, who's this straight chick walking in here? But it's why she's so powerful and such a force, because she's like, this is my friend Erin. This is what she's doing. Not even mentioning that I'm not technically part of the LGBT community, which we all are, but it's kind of that's what we talk about. I started going to all these events, and it's just packed with powerful people that are just really mind-blowing, the hurdles that they have on a daily basis that I don't have to think about, and they're also getting so much done on top of that. So it was another way that I realized, you know, I need to be a voice for them as well, because there's so much stigma with that. And people think, you know, if you're part of the LGBT community, you're just at a bar in WeHo and you're in drag or whatever. Like, there's so many things that they're visualizing, and it's not the case. And especially the transgender community, we have a lot at the homeless center. And just there, it's another daily struggle with stuff you don't think about. It's like to not feel comfortable in their own skin and to not be accepted for what they want to be. It's taught me a lot. It's a big thing that I'm really appreciative of. But I went to an event with Robin about a month or 2 ago, and one of her friends, after talking to me for about an hour, called me an imposter because she found out I was straight. And in a moment, it was like jarring, and I was pissed, but I was like, this is the moment I've been wanting, because I want to know literally how I will respond in this situation. And it was pretty amazing, because once I told her how we need each other's back and it doesn't matter who's on what team, she completely changed her thinking. And I had grabbed this friend of ours. She's another transgender friend that lives with Robin, and Robin's been her big advocate too, to come out and be comfortable in her skin. And this was the first night she was out at one of these events, and I looked at her and I was like, can I talk to you for a second? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, you're nervous here, right? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, I was just called an imposter. And I was like, you see how similar it is where you feel like you're not in the right place. And now I'm being told that I'm not in the right place, but we all have to learn from situations like this. So it was a really important moment that I appreciate.
So looking back at your path so far, is there one moment that you can reflect on and think, that was the most courageous thing I've done and it changed the journey that I'm taking?
It really would just be running for the neighborhood council, because the only reason why I did it, I was realizing teaching or being out in the park with the kids, one of the bathrooms was neglected and almost burned down because someone had lit a fire in the paper towel dispenser or whatever, and it affected the plumbing. And because either there was no funding or they just didn't really want to fix it, that broken bathroom just stood there in disrepair for months and months. And in order to not fix it, they had to put porta potties in the park. I found out from the maintenance worker, because I always teach the kids too, those are our good friends. So we're very close with them because they clean our trash cans, and that's important. So we know that Julie is coming to clean the trash cans. And Julie and I were talking one day, and she's like, do you know how much it costs to clean those porta potties? Because here comes a toilet truck every day or so. And I know I was doing the math, it was thousands of dollars that we were spending rather than just fixing a broken pipe in the bathroom. And it irked me so bad. And at that time I saw bus bench ads for Run for Neighborhood Council. And I didn't even know we had one, which is also part of my job, is to get the word out for that, because many people don't know. So I was so nervous, but I put up flyers, and I had, like, people had the signs in their yard with my name on it. I was like, this is like so not me at all. But that was kind of the gutsiest thing. And then I ended up winning by a landslide, and it was just like, oh my God, what we all could do, and we underestimate what we could do. And it really just changed everything for me.
Do you have cultural heroines that have influenced you?
It would be Lucille Ball and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, because I feel like it's so important to be a badass, basically, but to have humor in there. And I think people forget that, and they think you have to be so stiff and dry. But I mean, those are generally my closest friends too. Or not only can they handle my mouth, but they're equally funny and just, let it all slide. And I feel like those two women were the pinnacle, like the exact picture of that. It's really important to me. I can't stand when people censor me. I realized for years people did, and ex-boyfriends did, and it was always, be quiet and you're too loud and that's raunchy or whatever. And as you get older, you're like, that is the exact opposite of what I am or what I want or anything. And those are kind of the women that I look up to.
Tell us about your grandmothers.
Oh, God, they're the best. They're both crazy in their own way. My Italian grandmother, Maggie, like I said, I was raised in my family's Italian restaurant. So as a kid, I was working at 5 years old, because not only was it free childcare, it was like, good, fill the jelly jars and make the salads and stuff like that. But my earliest memories with her is we would sit in the foyer of our restaurant. And back then you had a smoking room and a non-smoking room, which is so ridiculous because it's not like there's a wall. It's nothing. So we would sit there, and our restaurant was next to the Cape Playhouse, which is an old playhouse. So we would get a lot of theater people and families. But she is so unfiltered, which I love and I'm very grateful for. She would play a game where we, at like 8 years old, we had to say if the person was a drunk, or if they were on drugs, or if the woman was a putana, which is not the best word, or a stunad, which is an idiot. But she would have me judge these people as soon as they walked in the door. And I was like, this is what we're doing? And my dad would get so mad, but I loved it because it was just hilarious. And I could put it aside and differentiate between like how you treat people and how not to, but also to enjoy the fact that my grandmother was nuts. So that's how she is. And then my other grandmother, they're both around the same age, and she talks exactly the same, and there's no filter. And they're my sisters. And I actually, like those Akashic records that I did, when I had asked why are my grandmothers like my sisters, and we literally don't see age. And this woman had said, it's really weird you say that, because people always ask what their spirit animal is, and yours didn't come up. What came up was a beach ball. And it's because you look at everyone as ageless. And so to you, literally, your grandmothers are not 80 years old. So you talk to them like they're 16. They do the same thing, and there's no age. It's like that. It's literally how I have felt my entire life. So yeah, they're just my best friends.
So you've accomplished so many things. Is there one thing you're the most proud of?
I'd have to say when Charles and Bridget were living here and just getting their message to so many people. It actually got us on the radio. We were on an AM radio show during the Christmas time, like a uplifting radio show. And that was another moment that actually pissed me off at the same time, because after we had told the story, and it was such a feel-good story, and it was like, here, we're all humans and we can all live under the same roof, and they were strangers living with me, and we were family. And at the end, this interviewer, who was a very sweet guy, he's like, Erin, is there anything we've said that we haven't covered? And I said, yeah, this guy was in Iraq, and he's in a sleeping bag, and that's what this country does to people, and that's how much we don't appreciate people that have fought and risked their lives to fight for this country. And they didn't air it because it wasn't feel good enough. On social media, he expressed the fight that he did, and he saved a police officer's life. That some guy on bath salts was going to kill this police officer, and Charles jumped in and saved his life, and he got a Medal of Valor, and he's still sleeping in a sleeping bag. So we were able to tell those stories from them living here, and it really taught so many people so many things about how we treat just our brothers and sisters out there. So I think just them living here and getting their message out was my proudest moment.
So what advice would you give to a young woman who wants to be an activist?
Don't be discouraged by people that try to silence you, and to think my biggest hurdle, and I get it from my friends, good friends a lot, is they view your passion as anger. And I always say, just because I'm pissed that our rights are being taken away, don't think that I'm sitting at home and I'm burning my bra and throwing crap across the house and that I hate life. And so, I mean, I'm laughing and smiling nonstop. And there's this misconception that if you're passionate and angry about something, that you must be angry inside, and it's not true. And I think that's something we need to teach girls a lot, is to have a voice and be really loud, and to not be mad at people that think you're just angry. They just don't get it, and you're allowed to just stomp your feet and try to fix stuff. Robin's done that for me a lot, because I'll still say like, oh God, I shouldn't get so mad and say that, or you know, it's not very positive. And she's like, screw that. Like, that was wrong. And you have every right to yell at that person and stick up for them. And it's like, God, I have to keep reminding myself that, because we always apologize. We're just taught to apologize. And I refuse to do that anymore. My friend calls me unapologetically angry. And it's like my favorite slogan, because it's true. It's like, I'm not scared of being angry anymore, and I'll go have wine and laugh and watch stupid TV all night.
What's your definition of success?
Success is just kind of like with, you know, your mantra and what you find the most rewarding. If you wake up and you're not dreading the day, that's really success. And to go to bed knowing that the day was amazing. And it's crazy, as much as, you know, the hardship that you see every day and the hard work that you do, I never ever get tired of it. And I'm always thinking of the next thing that I want to fix, even if it makes me so mad. I just always say I like having a fire under my ass, and people are like, you're taking on too much. I'm like, no, I'm so glad this thing just pissed me off, because now I'm gonna fix it. And that's success. If you can just keep doing that kind of stuff all the time, to me, that's success.
What's your secret to a rewarding life?
I realized that I am living the most rewarding life, and it's helping people. And to me, it's selfish in a way, because helping people makes me feel so good. And it's not, sometimes I'm like, am I doing this out of the kindness of my heart? Or is it just because I literally like get off on their smile, or just giving them a sweater or something like that? But I think if you wake up every day and you don't hate your job and you're making someone smile, it's just the most rewarding thing ever.
Thanks for listening to the Passionistas Project podcast and our interview with Erin Penner. To find out more about ILA, visit ilaadventureschool.org. And be sure to subscribe to the Passionistas Project podcast so you don't miss any of our upcoming inspiring guests.